A team of 4 astronauts ventured outside their vessel on Mars to gather rock samples. Their companions inside the ship alerted them to an impending storm, far more severe than anticipated. The astronauts were urged to return to the safety of the ship. A debate ensued among the crew regarding whether to brave the storm or attempt to ride it out. Despite most of the crew's willingness to take a chance and remain, the commander asserted her authority and made the final decision to depart. As they prepared for takeoff, the storm's turbulence hurled debris that damaged their ship, necessitating immediate repairs. They worked feverishly to fix the issue while battling the raging storm. During this chaotic endeavor, one of the crew members, Mark, was struck by flying debris and separated from the rest of the team. The impact also damaged his communication equipment, rendering him unreachable by the others. With the storm intensifying, the crew inside the ship delivered a grim update. The vessel would not be able to withstand the mounting wind conditions for long, and their window to escape was rapidly closing. They emphasized the urgency of their departure. As the storm worsened, the commander made a tough choice. She told her crew to go back inside the ship while she bravely stayed outside to look for their missing friend Mark. The commander searched hard, but the harsh conditions forced her to give up and return to the ship to save her team. The crew felt sad as they left Mars, knowing they had lost Mark. They said goodbye to their friend and accepted the tragic outcome of their mission. Meanwhile, the head of NASA held a press conference to tell the country about the mission's success and the team's journey home, but also shared the sad news of the astronaut's death. In a surprising turn, Mark woke up, still on Mars, half buried in the sand. His spacesuit showed warnings about low oxygen and unstable blood pressure. He stood up and found himself impaled by debris. Mark cut off most of it, but left some to keep the air pressure stable in his suit. Mark, against all odds, navigated his way back to the base, entered, and meticulously extracted the debris from his abdomen, ensuring the wound was securely closed. With a sense of purpose, he activated a video log, recounting his extraordinary experience for posterity. He explained how the debris had played a dual role, disabling his communication systems, yet sealing his suit and preserving his life. Mark held no grudge against his crew for their decision to leave, understanding their assumption that he had perished. Alone on Mars, Mark faced the stark realization that NASA's next manned mission was years away, and his limited food supply posed a significant challenge. As he explored the base, organizing his crew's belongings, each item carried the weight of their absence. Through a detailed inventory of the food stores, Mark discovered the daunting truth. His current provisions would only sustain him for a year. To survive, Mark would need to cultivate an additional 3 years' worth of food, a task that would test his resilience and ingenuity. Fortunately, Mark, being a botanist, seizes upon the opportunity to utilize the potatoes the crew had packed for Thanksgiving as a means of sustenance. Determined, he embarks on a mission to cultivate them. Mark meticulously cleans the solar panels, transports loads of soil indoors, and ingeniously utilizes the crew's waste to fashion fertilizer. With determination, he tills the indoor soil and carefully plants the potatoes. However, faced with a shortage of water, he ingeniously devises a method to generate more. Crafting a makeshift contraption that synthesizes water through controlled chemical reactions, Mark perseveres. After several days of tireless effort, the interior of the makeshift garden becomes adorned with condensation, and the first signs of plant life emerge. Meanwhile, back on Earth, NASA holds a somber funeral in honor of Mark. Vincent engages in a discussion with the director about the possibility of returning to Mars to retrieve the equipment left behind by Mark's crew. However, the director swiftly dismisses the idea, citing the necessity for all activities to be televised and expressing reluctance to expose the public to the sight of Mark's body. He insists on waiting. Vincent counters, highlighting the unique circumstances of Mars where Mark's body would remain preserved, proposing a mission framed as a retrieval for Mark's family. Meanwhile, Mindy, a satellite supervisor, receives coordinates indicating activity at Mark's location. Reacting swiftly, she places an urgent call to the director, alerting him to the development. As they review the footage, they realize it provides evidence of Mark's survival, prompting a scramble to devise a plan for public disclosure within the imminent 24-hour timeframe. Concerns mount over potential backlash against NASA for seemingly abandoning one of their own. They opt to convene a press conference to assure the public of their unwavering commitment to bringing Mark back safely. Meanwhile, on the desolate expanse of Mars, Mark pores over maps at the base, meticulously plotting his course to intersect with the next Mars mission in 4 years' time. The distance to his destination measures a daunting 3,200 kilometers, a considerable challenge given his rover's limited range of 35 kilometers per journey. Furthermore, the journey is estimated to span approximately 50 days from the base to the designated meeting point. Undeterred by these obstacles, Mark channels his ingenuity into modifying the rover to extend its range without the need for frequent recharging. Through tireless effort, he achieves success in doubling the battery life, albeit at the expense of disabling the rover's heating system. With the harsh Martian cold posing a threat to his survival, Mark ingeniously procures radioactive material to generate warmth. NASA held a press conference updating the public on Mark's situation. Through satellite tracking, they revealed that Mark intended to rendezvous with the next Mars mission. To ensure his safety, they expedited the mission timeline, aiming to reach him within 9 months. Out of concern for the crew's focus, NASA decided to withhold the news of Mark's survival from them during their return journey. Meanwhile, on Mars, Mark's resourcefulness yielded an impressive harvest of 400 potatoes from his garden, which he strategically replanted and stored for future consumption. In a remarkable turn of events, Mark located the long-lost Pathfinder rover, utilizing it to establish communication with NASA, who had a replica back on Earth. Mark's ingenuity shone as he developed a hexadecimal communication system, enabling him to ask more complex questions beyond simple yes or no answers. Through the Pathfinder, NASA provided Mark with instructions on hacking into the rover to enhance their connection and facilitate more effective communication. Vincent finally reveals NASA's plan to rescue Mark, bringing a wave of relief to the stranded astronaut. Eager for updates on his crew's reaction, Mark learns from Vincent that his teammates remain unaware of his survival, inciting fury within him at the agency's decision to withhold the truth. Realizing the necessity of transparency, Vincent resolves to inform the crew promptly. Soon after, as Mark's crew retrieves their mail, they receive shocking communications from NASA, disclosing Mark's survival and the ongoing rescue efforts. Mark, meanwhile, conducts a meticulous inventory, calculating his remaining food supplies alongside the potatoes he's cultivated, determining just enough sustenance to endure until NASA can dispatch a rescue mission, provided no unforeseen mishaps occur. However, tragedy strikes as an explosion rocks the entrance chamber while Mark tends to his garden, resulting in injuries and a cracked helmet. With oxygen depleting rapidly, Mark swiftly employs duct tape to seal the breach. Mark returned to his garden, only to find that the exposure to Mars's harsh atmosphere had taken a devastating toll. All his plants had perished, and the intricate watering system he had set up was destroyed. He relayed this unfortunate development to NASA, who realized the urgency of expediting the rescue mission. They acknowledged that without an accelerated timeline, Mark's limited food supply might not last until their arrival. In a heartwarming development, Mark's former crew received permission from NASA to reconnect with him. They reminisced, shared jokes, and caught up on their experiences. Mark, with a sense of closure, cleaned up the area dedicated to potato cultivation, removing the tarp and dirt while resealing the hatch opening. It was a symbolic gesture, marking the end of his gardening endeavors. Meanwhile, NASA made a controversial decision to forego inspections on the rescue ship, reasoning that it was unlikely anything was amiss and the inspection would cause unnecessary delays. Following the devastating explosion during launch, NASA faces a grim reality as their mission to rescue Mark lies in ruins. However, amidst the wreckage, China's Space Division extends a helping hand after witnessing the catastrophic event on the news. With the aid of Rich, a physicist, NASA devises a new plan to rescue Mark more swiftly. The plan involves the Hermes, the spacecraft carrying Mark's crew, looping back to Earth's orbit briefly to receive a fresh supply of food. Then, without landing, the Hermes will soar back into space to retrieve Mark. However, this plan adds 500 days to the Hermes journey. Despite the potential to save Mark, NASA's director rejects the plan, fearing the risk it poses to the lives of everyone on board the Hermes. Another NASA coordinator disagrees, feeling it's unfair to leave Mark behind. In a covert move, they send the plan details to the Hermes in secret, hoping to give Mark a chance at survival. Mark's crew huddles together, grappling with the weighty decision before them. They realize that defying NASA's orders means risking mutiny. They exchange thoughts about the prospect of enduring another 500 days in space, away from their families. Despite the daunting challenges ahead, they unanimously agree that rescuing Mark is the right thing to do. Each member reaches out to their loved ones, explaining the extended mission duration and steeling themselves for the sacrifice. In the midst of this, NASA is alerted to the Hermes veering off its planned trajectory. The director chastises the coordinator, who covertly shared the rescue plans with the crew, sparking tension within the agency. Meanwhile, Mark faces a critical task: gathering the vital equipment sustaining his life and transporting them to the rendezvous point with the Hermes. Time is of the essence as he races against the clock to ensure his survival and reunion with his crew. As the Hermes swings by Earth to restock supplies, it leverages the planet's gravitational pull to propel itself back towards Mars, conserving precious fuel for the critical mission ahead. After 7 months of preparation, Mark's mission to rendezvous with the Hermes was drawing near. He meticulously gathered his supplies and packed them into the rover, ensuring he had everything necessary for the journey. Mark also took along solar panels to recharge the rover during his travels, eliminating the need to return to the base. NASA, considering the high speeds required for the rendezvous, instructed Mark to remove all unnecessary equipment to reduce weight. He removed supplies intended for a 6-person crew, leaving only enough for his solo trip. To further reduce weight, Mark removed the front and side portions of the ship, replacing them with tarp, and he also took out all control panels, as the Hermes crew would be operating his ship remotely. Mark bid a sentimental farewell to the rover, entering the ship to get ready. He shaved off his beard, donned new clothes and a spacesuit, and awaited instructions from his crew. They offered reassurance and warned him about the potential physical impact of the launch force. As Mark's ship launches into space, the makeshift tarps hastily rigged to reduce weight are torn away by the powerful forces of the ascent. Overwhelmed, Mark succumbs to unconsciousness, rendering him unable to communicate with his crew. Upon regaining consciousness, Mark learns from his crew that they are unable to maneuver their ship close enough to reach him. In a bold move, the commander orders one of the crew members to construct an explosive device and affix it to the back of the ship, intending to slow their momentum and improve their chances of reaching Mark. With the explosive detonated, the ship inches closer to Mark's vessel, but still remains out of reach. Determined to bridge the gap, the commander dons a spacesuit and secures herself to a chair tethered to the ship with a length of rope. With nerves of steel, she ventures into the void towards Mark's ship. With a wrenching disappointment, the cable falls short of reaching Mark's ship, but quick thinking saves the day as Mark cuts a hole in his suit, using the air pressure to propel himself towards the waiting commander. She grabs hold of him, pulling him in, and they return to the safety of the ship together. They notify NASA of Mark's rescue, and their journey back home begins. Years later, Mark finds himself in a new role as a teacher, passing on vital knowledge about space safety to eager NASA trainees. Meanwhile, the crew members of the Hermes gather with their families to watch the Ares 4 launch on television, a poignant moment that brings their shared experiences in space flooding back. And with this, the movie comes to an end. Thanks for tuning in, guys.